Post 1. Am I the jerk for refusing to support my sister's wellness business? I am a female physician who owns a small primary care clinic with a modest wellness wing. We offer boring things like blood pressure checks, vaccines, a registered dietitian who talks about fiber, and a physical therapist who makes people do slow, annoying exercises that actually help. I am proud of it. I am also the oldest sibling. My sister Kayla is 3 years younger and has always been the one who floats between jobs, reinvents herself, and lands on her feet because someone, often me, puts down a cushion first. 3 years ago, I wrote her a resume. 2 years ago, I paid 1 month of her rent after she quit a customer service job without notice. Last year, I paid off a small credit card that she swore was an emergency that happened to be a bundle of bath bombs and a yoga mat. I told myself it was family. I told myself it was temporary. I also told myself she would not do it again, which was obviously naive because here we are. 2 months ago, she joined an MLM. I will not name it, but it is the kind that sells essential oils, powdered greens, collagen sachets, and a shiny stainless tumbler that is supposed to make your water alkaline if you stare at it with intention. She hosted a launch party on Facebook where she wore a sage green cardigan and said she had discovered the truth about root causes. She said chronic illness is about blocked detox pathways. She said pharmaceuticals only manage symptoms and that doctors are scared of people learning to heal themselves. I have an actual medical degree and 10 years of board-certified practice, but according to Kayla, I am part of the problem. The next morning, she messaged the family group chat with her Founders Bundle link. It was $900 worth of kits, which she framed as an investment in health and also in her small business. Mom chimed in with, "Let us support our girl." Aunt Dina added 5 glitter heart emojis and, "Pharma does not want this out." Dad left a thumbs up and then texted me privately that he hoped I would help Kayla get started, which meant buy something. I typed and erased 3 versions of a response before I finally sent my usual neutral script. I said I do not purchase or endorse supplements that lack evidence of safety and efficacy. I said I wish her success, but would not be buying. I added a smiley face that looked like it might make me friendlier. I put my phone down and tried to move on with my charts. Kayla replied with, "I love you, but you do not know about holistic health like I do now." Then she wrote a paragraph about mitochondria that read like it had been copied from a slide deck. Aunt Dina tagged me in a public post that afternoon. It had a blurry screenshot of Kayla's storefront and a caption, "When your own family will not support you, strangers will." Mom commented, "Some people are too proud." I could feel my face getting hot at my desk, which is ridiculous because I counsel patients through scarier conversations all day long. But family finds a way to bypass all my training and go right for my solar plexus. 2 days later, Kayla showed up at my clinic without warning. She marched up to the front desk with a floral tote bag and tried to hand our receptionist, Luis, a stack of sample packs. She told him they were for patients who want alternatives. Luis, who is very good at being polite when he is disrespected, told her he could not accept anything without my approval. He messaged me that my sister was here in the lobby with colorful powder and the energy of a talk show audience. I stepped out. Kayla hugged me in a way that felt like a performance and launched into her pitch. She said my clinic could be part of the movement. She said we could put a basket of sachets by the check-in window and a QR code at the counter. She said she would do it for free at first because she wanted to prove the value. She said this as if she was offering a scholarship. My stomach did that tight little knot it does when I need to be both kind and immovable. I thanked her for thinking of us and told her we do not distribute any product that is not on our formulary. I said it would be a conflict with our evidence policy. I kept my voice even. I am trained to do that in exam rooms. She smiled in a way that did not reach her eyes and told me I was threatened because her stuff helps with root inflammation. She said I should be happy for her for finding her calling. Then she set the tote down on the counter and said, I will leave these to get you started. I picked the tote back up and placed it in her hands. I could feel Marta, our head nurse, watching from the doorway. I said, we cannot take them. I said, again, it is policy. Kayla's face hardened. She told me she would pray for my fear. She told me some patients ask for natural options and that I was blocking access. I thought of my patient with lupus, who is finally stable after months of medication, and I felt the familiar combination of sadness and anger that I usually translate into education. I offered, perhaps foolishly, to send her a few articles on supplement regulation and drug interactions. She declined. By dinner time, the group chat was buzzing. Mom said I embarrassed Kayla at my work. Aunt Dina asked if I am aware of the opioid crisis and if I think pills are always the answer. Dad texted me separately that I should not take it personally and that Kayla is just excited. Kayla posted an Instagram story with a boomerang of the clinic exterior and the caption, "Big things coming." I stared at it in my car and felt the weight of all the times I have tried to be the reasonable one in this family. I wanted to cry, but I also had to go back inside and finish 3 more charts. Here is where I worry I am being cold. I did not buy the bundle. I did not post a testimonial. I did not allow samples at the clinic. A small part of me worries that I am not being supportive enough of my sister's attempt to build something. A larger part of me knows that buying in would only encourage a path that will hurt her and possibly others. I offered emotional support and boundaries. It seems that both were unwelcome. So, am I the jerk for refusing to buy or promote my sister's MLM products? Comment 1. Doctor here too. You set a clear, evidence-based boundary while still offering kindness. You are protecting patients from unregulated products and your sister from false expectations. Not the jerk. Comment 2. As a patient, I would leave a clinic that let staff push supplements. You did the right thing. Boundaries are not cruelty. Update 1. Thank you to everyone who weighed in. I read your comments late at night, sitting on my couch with my cat doing that soft rumble on my lap. I felt calmer. I reminded myself I am allowed to hold a boundary. I thought the conversation might cool down if I just stayed steady. Instead, the family pressure shifted gears. If I would not buy her products, I should help in a real way by giving my sister, Kayla, a job. The first volley landed in a group chat a few days after the clinic tote incident. Mom wrote, "Let us be constructive. Your sister is trying to turn her life around. She needs stability. You own a clinic." Connect the dots, Aunt Dina chimed in with a meme about how women lift women. Dad sent could be short term just to help her get on her feet, then called me privately to say he hoped I could find something front desk-ish so Kayla could save money and focus on her business. I tried to approach this like a consult. Facts first, then options. My clinic is small. Every role is tied to a credential or a defined scope. Front desk staff handle protected health information and cash postings. Medical assistants enter vaccine lot numbers, reconcile medications, and take vitals. The dietitian and physical therapist are licensed. Even our student volunteers go through onboarding and supervision. We do not have a role for a wellness advocate. We cannot create a desk for someone to sit at so that mom can feel like she did something. I wrote a careful response. We have a hiring freeze until January because we are replacing our billing software, which is enough chaos without adding a new hire. I said our front desk positions require prior medical office experience or specific training. I said any hire would be based on qualifications and fit, not family ties. I offered to look over Kayla's resume again and suggest community job leads that better match her background. Kayla immediately replied with a pitch. She wanted to create a role called Wellness Advocate that would educate on natural options and connect patients to supportive products. She said she would not mention her MLM directly at work if I felt weird, but she wanted a commission structure for referrals to her online store that happened off hours. She said it like a compromise. I stared at her message for a long time because it showed me exactly how she sees my clinic. Not as a place where people come to manage hypertension and grief and foot pain, as a storefront she could borrow, then rename. At work, I had a long, practical conversation with my head nurse, Marta. She is calm in storms and good at spotting risks I miss when I am emotional. I told her about the family pressure and the proposed wellness advocate idea. She looked so alarmed I actually laughed, which was better than crying. She said it would be a liability nightmare. She said that if patients later believed anyone on staff suggested they change their medication or buy a product, even indirectly, the clinic could face complaints or worse. She reminded me that we have already had to gently redirect a patient who stopped taking a blood thinner after reading a blog about turmeric. She did not have to say that the family drama would spill into the workroom. I could already feel it in my stomach. I still tried to find the most generous version. I asked myself if there was any non-clinical, truly low-risk task Kayla could do for a few weeks that would not touch patient care or branding. Something like scanning old paper records, but even that requires discretion, timeliness, and a willingness to be told no. Kayla has been dismissive of our policies every step of the way. The minute I pictured her at the front desk, rolling her eyes at our flu shot reminders, my chest tightened. Mom called that evening. I could hear the television in the background and the clatter of dishes. She skipped hello. She said, "It is not right that you will not help your own sister. You talk all day about community and health. What about family health?" She said I was being elitist, that a regular job would do Kayla good, and that I was punishing her for being entrepreneurial. I said I am not punishing anyone. I said I cannot fabricate a job. I said our policies exist to protect patients and staff. She said I hide behind policies to avoid compassion. I swallowed hard and told her I love her. Then I told her I would not discuss clinic staffing with her again. The next day, Aunt Dina posted a not subtle Facebook status about gatekeepers who are scared of strong women building wellness businesses. She tagged Kayla. She did not tag me, which almost felt worse. A few of my patients are also Facebook friends with family. One older patient came in and asked if we were hiring natural health coaches now. I felt my face warm and had to steady my voice to say no, we are not. Dad checked in a day later. Soft voice. He said he understood my position, but maybe I could find something temporary for peace. He said, just to stop the noise. I asked him gently, who would field the noise if something went wrong at work because I lowered a boundary? He went quiet. He said he just hates seeing us fight. I do too. There is a version of me that would set myself on fire if it meant the kitchen got quiet for an evening. Kayla texted me privately last night with a carrots and sticks approach. She said she could bring me a new market of health-conscious clients if we partnered. She said my clinic page would grow fast if I let her manage content and talk about detox protocols. She said people follow authenticity. I wanted to type that authenticity in medicine is telling someone their A1C is too high and then helping them find a realistic plan that might involve boring oatmeal, not a sachet. I did not send that. I said, again, that our clinic is evidence-based. I said there is no role for sales at the clinic. I said I would let her know if a general admin opening appears in the future, and she is welcome to apply like anyone else. She sent back, you are scared to let me shine. I put my phone face down and let the cat climb onto my chest. I counted my breaths. I reminded myself of all the times I blurred lines with family and then had to pretend I was fine when they walked right over me. I am not fine, and I do not have to prove otherwise. I feel guilty. I still do. I can imagine a world where I give her a short contract to scan or greet or water plants, and we have a peaceful holiday. But I also know my clinic keeps people safe because we draw lines early, not after a mess. Kayla believes rules are obstacles to her calling. I believe rules are how we do no harm. Those beliefs cannot share a front desk. So, am I the jerk for refusing to give my sister a job at my clinic? Comment 1. Clinic owner here. You are protecting your license and your patients. A non-clinical role still touches PHI and brand risk. Keep the line, not the jerk. Comment 2. Attorney who handles small practice complaints. Mixing MLM influence with patient spaces creates liability. Document your decisions and keep family out of staffing. Update 2. I hired her against advice, and now the lines are blurring. I know many of you told me not to do this. I read your comments and felt the steadiness in them that I could not quite manufacture for myself. I even sat with Marta, my head nurse, and went through a list of risks like we were studying for a board exam. Then I had dinner at my parents' house and watched Mom set an extra plate with a flourish and say, "It is so nice when sisters support each other." Dad poured me tea. Kayla looked soft and hopeful in that way she does when she wants something. I could feel my spine sag. I told myself I could create a narrow, harmless role. I told myself clear rules would keep us safe. I offered Kayla a temporary, non-clinical position. 4 weeks, 20 hours per week. tasks limited to scanning archived paper records, uploading old vaccination records, and calling to confirm appointments from a script that contains no health advice. I wrote a policy packet that was almost comically explicit. Bullet points in large font. No supplement sales on site. No mention of personal businesses to patients. No social media content that references the clinic without written approval. No medical advice of any kind. Confidentiality training on day 1. I asked her to sign an acknowledgement. She rolled her eyes but signed. Her first morning was quiet. I set her up in the file room with a scanner and a box of paper charts from the practice we absorbed 2 years ago. She wore new scrubs in a color that looked like mint ice cream and said she wanted to look professional. Marta walked her through the confidentiality module and the appointment script. I checked on her at lunch. She smiled and said, "Look at me, corporate." I laughed because it felt easier than acknowledging the knot in my chest. By day 3, the edges had started to fray. I overheard her telling Luis that our flu shot day felt like fear marketing. She said it with a laugh, like a joke among friends. Luis tried to pivot to how many hospitalizations we prevented last winter. She nodded and said, "Totally, for people who do not support their immune system naturally." Marta later told me she had to redirect Kayla 3 times from the front desk because Kayla kept lingering there to chat instead of finishing the scanning. On day 5, I found a small stack of postcards in the restroom. They were pastel with leaves on the corners. "Do you struggle with bloat or low energy?" followed by a QR code. No website listed, just the QR. I scanned it in my office. It went to Kayla's MLM storefront. My stomach dropped. I took the postcards to the file room and placed them on the table beside her. I said, as evenly as I could, that materials in the clinic must be approved. I asked if she had put them in the restroom. She blinked at me and said, "Oh, those must have fallen out of my bag. I would never target your patients." Wow, she lifted both palms like a surrender gesture. I stared at the postcards and thought of all the times she has said something with a smile that forces me to decide between calling it what it is or being painted as dramatic. The following week, she added her own twist to the script for confirmation calls. The script says, "Hi, this is Kayla calling from Dr. X's clinic to confirm your 9 o'clock appointment. Please remember to bring your medication list." Kayla added, "If you are interested in natural support for energy or sleep, I have educational resources outside of work." I would not have known, except a patient left a voicemail asking about Kayla's energy packets. Luis flagged it. I sat with Kayla and played the voicemail. She shook her head and said the patient must have misunderstood. Then she told me I was looking for reasons to criticize her. I wrote a reminder memo. It was not disciplinary, just a restatement of the rules. I emailed it to Kayla and to the staff so no one would feel singled out. Kayla came into my office, holding her phone, and said, "So now you are emailing the whole clinic because you do not trust me." I said the memo was clinic-wide. She said I was threatened by her ability to connect with people. I fell into an old pattern and started explaining the difference between rapport and solicitation, and felt my voice get clinical in a way that is not suited for family. She smirked, which made me want to cry. At home, the chorus grew louder. Mom posted a photo of Kayla at the clinic with a caption about how proud she was of her daughter for bringing heart back into healthcare. Aunt Dina added hearts and wrote, "The future is feminine and natural." Dad texted me that Kayla seemed calmer with structure. I wanted to say that structure works when you respect it. Instead, I sent a thumbs up and watered my plants at 9 at night, because sometimes the only thing I can fix is a thirsty fern. The patients have mostly been kind. A woman I have seen for years brought me muffins and said she hoped I was taking care of myself. Another patient asked if we were adding a supplement shop to the lobby. I told him no, we are not. He nodded and changed the subject to his knee pain in a way that felt like mercy. I am not sleeping well. I wake up at 3, thinking about postcards and how many ways one well-placed sentence can undo a trust that took me 10 years to build. I keep reminding myself that this is a trial. 4 weeks. I can end it if it hurts the clinic. I can end it if it hurts me. The truth is, without your comments, I think I would have already talked myself into pretending it was fine. Reading strangers say the quiet thing out loud has been like flipping a light on in a dim hallway. I can see the table and the chair now. I can also see the edges of the rug that someone is trying to pull from under my feet. Today, Marta asked if we could have a short staff huddle to restate boundaries in person. She suggested I be the one to lead it. Not a memo, not a whisper in a doorway. A calm, clear reset. I said yes. We are meeting Monday morning before patients arrive. I will say out loud that our clinic is evidence-based. I will say out loud that sales have no place in patient spaces. I will say out loud that we can be kind and also firm. Maybe I needed to practice saying it here first. I know some of you will want to shake me and ask why I hired her at all. You are not wrong. I wanted a quiet holiday. I wanted my mother to look at me with softness instead of accusation. I wanted to be the good daughter and the good boss at the same time. It turns out those roles do not overlap when the price is my clinic's integrity. I am sorry I did not see that sooner. I see it now. Thank you for the clarity. I will update after the staff meeting. Comment 1. You did the right thing by setting a narrow scope and documenting rules, but the restroom postcards and altered phone scripts are clear violations. Hold the meeting, document everything, and be prepared to end the trial if it continues. Comment 2. Licensed dietitian here. Patients deserve education that does not sell. Your boundary protects real behavior change. Keep it firm and keep Marta close. Update 3. We held the staff huddle Monday morning with coffee cups and the printer humming in the background. Marta stood beside me. Luis and Priya pulled their rolling chairs into a loose circle. Kayla slid in last with her mint scrubs and a smile. I had written out what I needed to say because when I am emotional, I become overly detailed and then apologize for being detailed. I did not want to apologize for clarity in my own clinic. I thanked everyone for their patience as we navigate changes, then stated the policy in plain language. Our clinic is evidence-based. We do not sell or promote unregulated products. We do not discuss supplements with patients unless a licensed provider has initiated it as part of care. No outside businesses and no commissions. No social media posts that reference the clinic without written approval. I used examples that Kayla could not miss. Restroom postcards, altered phone scripts, Casual lobby comments about powders. I said these were not allowed, and I said it without softening. Kayla looked bored at first, then amused. When I finished, she asked if it would be acceptable for her to educate patients on general wellness in her own time during lunch. Marta jumped in before I could find the right words. She said patient education is a clinical service provided by licensed staff, not lunch table chatter. Kayla nodded in a way that felt like a performance for an audience that existed only in her head. I reminded myself that the meeting was not to convince her. It was to set the record for everyone else. For a few days, things were quiet. Kayla stayed in the file room, and the scanner finally stopped jamming because she was not leaning on it with one hip and talking to Luis. I let my shoulders drop. I allowed myself to imagine that 4 weeks would pass, and I could thank her for helping with the backlog and send her on her way with a clean close. Then Thursday happened. We had a full schedule with 2 well checks and a complicated diabetes follow-up that always runs long. During the morning rush, I overheard Kayla out front saying hello to a patient who was checking in. I did not think much of it because greetings are normal and human. 10 minutes later, Nurse Marta came into my exam room with a face I have only seen when she is trying to keep me from being blindsided. She closed the door behind her and said, quietly, that the diabetes patient had just asked if I would evaluate a new sugar-balancing oil blend that Kayla had given her as a free sample. The patient had been told it might help reduce her medication needs. Marta had documented the exact phrasing in the chart under a communication note. She had also collected the tiny blue vial and placed it in a plastic bag for me to see. I am trained to keep tone neutral no matter what I hear. I felt heat rise into my cheeks anyway. I finished my current visit, then asked Luis to take the next blood pressure recheck so I could address this immediately. In my office, I looked at the vial. It smelled like cinnamon and orange. The MLM name was printed in raised letters on the side. Kayla had not just chatted about wellness. She had handed a product to a patient with a claim that pointed toward medical advice. I asked Marta to be present, then called Kayla into my office. I placed the bag on the desk and said, in a low voice, that a patient had reported receiving this from her. Kayla said she had been making friendly conversation, that the patient was curious, and that it was simply a free sample. I reminded her that free samples count as promotion. I reminded her of the policy she signed. I said the words conflict of interest and risk. She shifted her weight and said I was overreacting. She said I was misreading kindness as solicitation because I am threatened by her ability to connect. I handed her a written warning that I had prepared after the staff meeting in case we needed it. It restated the policies. It noted the patient report and the itemized vial. It set the expectation that one more violation would result in termination. She glanced at it and said, "Wow, this is hostile." Marta was steady at my side. She asked Kayla to sign to acknowledge receipt. Kayla drew a tiny heart next to her name. The way she smiled while doing it made me want to cry again, which was embarrassing, so I focused on my breath. We thought the worst of it was over. Then, that evening, a medical assistant texted me a link to a TikTok video. In it, Kayla was wearing the same mint scrubs and standing in our lobby by the framed art print of a fern. The caption said, Clinics are finally embracing natural healing, followed by hashtags for her MLM and a tag for our clinic name. She gave a short speech about how conventional and natural can collaborate if the gatekeepers would get out of the way. The clinic logo was visible on the sign in the background. My stomach dropped. I do not like the feeling of being publicly tagged without consent. I also do not like the feeling of being used as a set piece. I called Kayla and told her to take it down immediately. She said it was her personal channel and she was not violating anything. I reminded her of the policy that requires written approval for any content that references the clinic. She said I was silencing women in health. She added that she thought the video would be good marketing for us. I told her again to remove it. She hung up. I emailed her a formal directive, reiterating that the video must be removed within 1 hour and that failure to do so would be considered insubordination. I CC'd our general counsel, who handles our compliance questions, and Marta as a witness. 45 minutes later, the video disappeared. 10 minutes after that, Kayla posted a new story that said, "Sometimes your gifts scare people," with a photo of a candle. The next morning, I met briefly with the whole team to reset. I clarified that if any patient mentions Kayla's products or conversations, staff should document the exact language and route the note to me. I asked Luis to update the social media policy printout that sits by the time clock. I asked Priya to prepare a short in-house education session on supplement interactions for the team so that we feel anchored when patients bring up powders and oils. It helped to turn the chaos into a plan. Kayla came in late, offered no apology, and went straight to the scanner. She was quiet in that crackling way that precedes a storm. Mom texted me that afternoon to say Kayla had felt humiliated by my public shaming. I had said nothing public. The only public thing was Kayla's own video. I stared at the text and felt that old tilt inside, the one that makes me want to defend my choices until the room spins. I put my phone face down and went to see my next patient, who wanted to talk about foot cramps and the cost of groceries. It was a relief to focus on something concrete. I see now that the staff meeting was necessary but not sufficient. Kayla heard a line and decided to test it. I also see that the written warning was the right step. I wish I had never hired her. That is the truth I keep skating around because I am ashamed of it. I did it to stop the noise at my parents' table. Instead, I brought the noise into the waiting room where my patients come for calm. I am steadier now than I was 2 weeks ago. I am less interested in being seen as kind and more interested in being clear. There is 1 more week left on this trial. If there is 1 more breach, there will not be a week. I do not want another vial to land in a plastic bag on Marta's desk. I will update soon. Comment 1. The sample to a diabetes patient crosses a bright line. Your documentation and written warning were exactly right. You protected your license and your patient. Stay firm. Comment 2. Social media with visible branding is not personal. It is workplace. You handled it by the book. Good move having counsel on the email. Update 4. I thought I had enough structure in place to keep the mess contained. We had the staff huddle. We issued the written warning. The video came down after the formal directive. For 3 days, the clinic felt closer to normal. I allowed myself to focus on flu shot logistics and a backlog of refill requests. I allowed myself to think we might finish the 4-week trial with nothing worse than paperwork and a dented relationship. Yesterday proved me wrong. I had a working lunch scheduled with Priya to finalize our winter nutrition class outline. I left the clinic for 20 minutes to grab salads from the place next door while Priya printed handouts. When I walked back into the lobby, I stopped in the entryway so fast that the door bumped my heel. Kayla had set up a folding table near the check-in window. The tablecloth was pale sage. On top sat a pyramid of small product boxes, a clear stand with glossy brochures, and a placard that read, "Detox Challenge, Sign Up." The placard had a QR code that led to her MLM page. She wore the mint scrubs and a name badge she had made for herself that said Wellness Advocate under her name. 2 patients were browsing the brochures. One was holding a box. For a split second, my brain could not process it. Then I heard her pitch. She was telling a patient that if they joined this week, they would get a discount on a bundle and access to her group chat for accountability. She added that certain powders could help rebalance hormones. She did not look up to see me. Luis did, and his eyes widened over the computer monitor. I walked straight to the table and said quietly that this was not allowed and the table needed to be removed immediately. Kayla beamed at me and said we were on a lunch break, so she was using her personal time to educate. She said she had already cleared it with the universe. I said she had not cleared it with clinic leadership, and that is the only clearance that matters here. I turned to the browsing patients and told them the table was not affiliated with the clinic, and we do not sell or endorse products. I apologized for the confusion. I felt my face flush and my heart pound in that unpleasant, shallow way that makes your voice shake if you do not anchor it. I anchored it. Kayla tried to continue talking to the patient while I was speaking. Marta stepped out from the hall, placed a hand on the table, and said in her calm voice that lunch was over and that we needed to reset the space. Luis brought the rolling cart we use for vaccine clinics. We put every brochure and box on the cart. I asked Kayla to come to my office. She said she felt unsafe. She said she wanted a witness. I said Marta would be present, as she had been for all prior meetings. She followed us with dramatic care, like a person entering a courtroom. I suspended her pending investigation for insubordination and policy violations. I used those exact words. I handed her a suspension letter that documented the lobby display, the product pyramid, the sign-up placard, and patient interactions witnessed by staff. I asked for her keys and badge. She hesitated, then handed them over. She said I was scared of women owning their power. She said the medical industrial complex was shaking. She filmed herself on her phone as she left the building, tears in her eyes. I could hear her say on the video that she had been silenced for speaking truth about natural health. Before I could even finish the incident report, 2 pieces of fallout landed. A patient called to lodge a complaint about being pressured to buy a detox program in the lobby. She said she felt targeted and that it made her question our professionalism. Another patient who had labs scheduled that afternoon left a voicemail canceling because they wanted to try a natural reset first. Both the messages made my stomach clench. This is exactly the harm I have been trying to prevent. This is exactly why rules exist. I called our counsel to let him know about the suspension and to ask for a review of the cease and desist letter draft we had prepared in case of logo misuse. He advised we also include a specific prohibition on using our premises for personal commerce and a reminder that our policies extend to lunch periods when inside the clinic. Luis updated the posted policy sheet accordingly. Priya slid her winter class outline back into a folder and sat with me while I wrote the documentation. She brought me a glass of water without comment. Marta gathered written statements from the front desk staff who had seen the table and heard the sales language. It was both humbling and steadying to watch my team move into protective mode. Within an hour, the family chorus began. Mom reposted Kayla's tearful video with a caption about how cruel it is when your own family tries to crush your purpose. Aunt Dina wrote a long comment about gatekeeping and how she stands with healers. My phone buzzed like a trapped bee. Dad texted me privately to ask what happened. I called him and told him plainly that Kayla violated clear policy and pressured patients. He said he understood that it sounded bad, but he wished I had handled it quietly so it would not blow up online. I told him it blew up because Kayla filmed herself. He went quiet. Then he said he is tired. I believed him. So am I. Suspending Kayla was not easy. Firing a family member will be worse. But watching a patient cancel needed labs because someone waved a discount in their face was the breaking point. This is my clinic. More than that, this is my responsibility. I am allowed to choose the quiet internal hum of doing the right thing over the loud external noise of being called unkind. I emailed Kayla with a formal notice that her suspension would last through the remainder of the trial period while we investigate, and that any further use of clinic branding or premises for personal sales would lead to immediate termination. I reiterated the cease and desist regarding logo use and the social media tag. I CC'd counsel. I CC'd Marta. I turned off my phone for 1 hour and saw 4 patients in a row. We talked about back pain and grief and a grandson's school play. I felt my breath return to a normal pace. I have not decided whether to end the relationship now or wait the final days of the trial. I am leaning toward ending it now. Waiting feels like pretending a fire is not already burning. I will meet with counsel tomorrow morning and then decide. I will not let the word family undo the word safety again. I know I asked for this when I hired her. I know many of you tried to keep me from it. I am listening now. I am also grateful for my staff, who trusted me enough to document and step in. That was not just loyalty, that was stewardship. I will update after I make the final call. Comment 1. The lobby table and pressure on patients are egregious violations. Suspension was appropriate. Terminate, retrieve all access, and notify patients that your clinic does not endorse products. Consider a brief posted statement to reassure your community. Comment 2. You sound jealous. Maybe your sister is better at connecting with people than you are. Patients want natural options. You are gatekeeping because you feel threatened. OP reply. I understand how it might look from the outside. To be clear, this is not about competing sales. My clinic does not sell products. This is about patient safety and trust. A patient canceled needed labs because of a sales pitch. That is the line I cannot cross. Update 5.
I met with counsel first thing the next morning. We reviewed the documentation, the written warning, the suspension letter, and staff statements regarding the lobby sales table. He did not waffle. He said the pattern was clear and the risk ongoing. He advised immediate termination with a witness present, retrieval of all property, revocation of system access, and a written cease and desist covering the clinic name, logo, and any implication of affiliation. He also suggested a short public statement from the clinic to reassure patients that we do not sell or endorse products, and to invite anyone who felt pressured to contact our office manager directly.
I asked Marta to sit in as witness. We closed the door. I kept my voice even. I said Kayla's employment was terminated effective immediately due to repeated policy violations and insubordination. Specifically, promotion of unregulated products to patients, use of clinic space for personal sales, and social media content implying affiliation without approval. I slid the termination letter across the desk. I asked for her badge, keys, and any remaining physical items that belonged to the clinic. She stared at the letter, then at me. She said I was punishing her for having charisma. She said the clinic felt dead and that she had been helping people feel hopeful. She said that if I cared about healing, I would allow a diversity of approaches. She did not hand over the badge. Marta, calm as always, pointed to the line in the letter that says failure to surrender property is a cause for security intervention. Kayla held our eyes for a long time, then dropped the badge and a single key onto the desk with loud precision. She said she hoped I could sleep at night. I said I sleep better when my patients are safe. For once, I did not explain. I did not list the interactions. I did not ask her to understand. I concluded the meeting and asked Luis to escort her to collect her personal items. She filmed herself again in the parking lot. I did not watch. Marta changed the front door code and removed Kayla from the alarm list. Luis and I audited user accounts. We revoked her portal access and removed her from any shared folders. Counsel sent the cease and desist with clear language about our name, logo, interior images, and any phrasing that implies partnership. He also referenced the video that tagged the clinic, so there was no ambiguity about scope. Then I turned to my patients. I drafted a brief statement for our website and framed it as values, not drama. It said, our clinic is an evidence-based medical practice. We do not sell or endorse supplements or products, and we do not permit solicitation in patient spaces. If any patient ever feels pressured by anyone while in our clinic, please contact our office manager so we can address it. We posted it on the website and pinned it to our social page. It felt like opening a window. Within a few hours, the family blowback intensified. Mom called and left a voicemail in tears. She said I had humiliated my sister and that a real leader would have found a way to collaborate. Aunt Dina posted a long status about how women who innovate are crushed by jealous relatives. Kayla put up a story about how true healing is being censored. Dad texted me one sentence that made my throat tighten. He wrote, I know this hurts, but it sounds like you did what you had to do. It was the first time he chose a side in words. The clinic's response was the opposite of what I feared. Patients stopped by the desk to tell Luis they were relieved. One patient who had considered canceling labs came back and kept the appointment after reading our statement. A teacher brought coffee for the staff with a note that said, Thank you for being boring in the best way. Marta laughed, then put the note on the break room fridge. Priya finalized the winter nutrition class plan and added a short module on supplement safety. It felt like steering the ship back into the channel after scraping a sandbar. Kayla sent me a long text accusing me of stealing her chance at stability and of being threatened by her potential. She demanded a written apology. She said she would be seeking damages for emotional distress. Counsel advised me not to engage directly and to route any further communication through him. I replied with a single sentence, confirming that all employment-related communication should go to our counsel, then muted the thread. Seeing my own blue bubble be the last word, and a short one, felt like learning a new language. Mom escalated. She called the clinic and asked to speak to my office manager. She wanted confirmation that Kayla had been fired so she could tell her church group the truth. Luis took the call, gave no details beyond what is publicly posted, and repeated that personnel matters are private. Mom posted another status about how a daughter can break a mother's heart twice, once at birth and again when she forgets where she came from. Several relatives joined the chorus. A cousin I have not seen in years wrote that modern medicine is a scam. It was like watching a noise machine from the other side of a glass wall. Loud, but I was not inside the room anymore. In the practical column, we filed everything. We saved screenshots. We created a one-page standard operating procedure for staff on how to handle any mention of outside product pitches. We added a sentence to our new hire packet that states our ban on solicitation applies to breaks and lunch while on premises. We scheduled a staff debrief to name what had been hard and to thank people for how they showed up. I told Luis he had been steady and kind. I told Marta that her calm made it possible for me to act when my chest felt tight. Priya hugged me and said we had our clinic back. I have been afraid of being seen as unkind. I have been afraid of being called elitist. I have been afraid of being the daughter who draws a line. What I feel now is tired, but also clean. I can feel the outline of my clinic again, the way a person can feel the borders of their own body after a fever breaks. It is not about winning against Kayla. It is about choosing what my patients see when they walk through the door. They see posters for vaccines, a sign about sliding scale, a rack of brochures about fall prevention that Priya vetted. They see staff who look up when someone arrives. No pastel postcards, no pyramids of boxes. Kayla is still posting. Mom is still amplifying. Aunt Dina is still cheering. I am still not responding. The cease and desist stopped the logo use. The table stunt cannot happen again because the badge is gone and the lock code is changed. There will be people who decide I am cold. There will be people who decide I am safe. I cannot hold both audiences and run a clinic. I will post a final update after a few months have passed. For now, I am going to take a walk around the block and then finish charts. I will pet my cat. I will check on my fern. Boring in the best way. Comment 1. You handled termination, access revocation, and public reassurance exactly right. Strong boundaries protect patients and staff. Keep everything documented and enjoy the boring calm returning. Comment 2. As a patient, thank you for the clear statement and for not letting sales creep into care. This builds trust. Final update. 6 months later. It has been 6 months since I terminated my sister's brief employment at my clinic and set the last of the locks, passwords, and boundaries. I promised an update once the dust settled. The dust did not settle so much as sift down in quiet layers that now feel like part of the floor. Life is calmer. Calmer looks very ordinary, which is what I wanted and did not realize I was allowed to want. The clinic is steady. We filled 2 openings with experienced people who treat the front desk like the nerve center it is. Our phone tree works. Charts close on time most days. Priya launched the winter nutrition class we had paused during the chaos. She added a short module on supplement safety, not as a clapback, but as a resource for the questions that always come up in real life. Attendance was full by the second week. The teacher who once brought the coffee stops by to ask if she can donate fresh fruit for class days. Louise frames the note she left and hangs it in the break room next to the flu clinic photo. Marta ran a refresher on our social media and solicitation policy for new hires, and then put the laminated copy back near the time clock where anyone can see it. I no longer look at the time clock and feel dread. I look and feel gratitude. We hosted an open house in spring. It was small, folding chairs, name tags written in my handwriting that still leans right when I am happy. A local librarian gave a short talk about evaluating health claims online. People asked earnest questions about sleep and blood pressure monitors and fiber. I stood in the back and watched my staff answer clearly without trying to charm anyone. That steadiness, more than any poster or website, is the brand I want. The practical continues to be practical. Our council's cease and desist did what it needed to do. Kayla stopped using the clinic name and logo in her posts. We have not had another patient report of being pitched a product on site, not even in the restroom. The patient who canceled labs returned after reading our statement and told me she appreciated hearing plainly that we do not sell anything. It struck me how often people do not mind rules when the rules are about making their life safer. Family is a quieter tangle. Mom still posts wellness articles with captions that feel like side glances, but the volume has come down. I moved our contact to low gear. We do not litigate the clinic on the phone. We text about Dad's back garden and the neighbor's new dog. She tries to send me links about oils. I do not click. At Easter, she said, in a careful voice, that she knows we see health differently. I said in an equally careful voice that I love her and that I am done arguing. Dad has found his voice in small sentences. He came to the open house and stood near the coffee urn like a shy usher. When he left, he squeezed my shoulder and said, "You built something sturdy." I carried those 4 words around for a week, like they were heavier than they sounded. Kayla fell out of the MLM not with a confession, but with a pivot. The company changed its comp plan, and she posted a long message about choosing a new path that aligned with her values. The new path turned out to be another brand for a month, then a podcast with 2 episodes, then a flurry of posts about becoming a wellness coach without the products. The coaching did not appear to launch. In June, she took a job at a fast food place near the mall. A cousin sent me a photo of her in a headset, smiling tight. I did not share it. She remained certain she was mistreated. She still uses phrases like, "speak your truth," and women who build will be attacked. She is not in danger. She is not stable. She is not my project. That last sentence is the one I repeat. The online noise faded once it stopped getting replies. Aunt Dina still cheers from the sidelines, but fewer people clap back or pile on. That surprised me. I expected the chorus to linger the way smoke lingers in a winter coat. It turns out that silence is heavy for people who like loud. It weighs down their arms. They move on to posts that answer back. The hardest part to name is the relief. I do not wake at 3 with a loop of the lobby scene running behind my eyes. I do not brace when my phone lights up at noon. I do not pause before walking through my own clinic door to wonder if a pastel postcard has appeared again. I did not realize how much energy I spent trying to avoid being called cold. I also did not realize how warm it feels to make a boundary and let it stay made. There were small wins that would look silly on paper, but feel big in my chest. One of our older patients came in with a handwritten list of vitamins her niece wanted her to try. She asked if we could go through it together. We did. We crossed off most of it and kept the calcium because her diet is light on dairy. She laughed and said, "Boring is better." I felt 10 feet tall. Another patient brought me a fern cutting because I once told him that watering my plant after a hard day has become a ritual that calms my hands. The cutting took root on my office windowsill. It looks unremarkable. I admire it anyway. The relationship with my sister is not fixed. It may never be. We text about birthdays and dad's tomatoes and the cat that keeps sleeping in mom's flower bed. I do not ask about her business ideas, and she does not ask about my clinic, except to say she wishes I would share more posts about natural things. I do not take the bait. When she hints that I cost her a future, I say I hope she finds work that fits. Then I let the conversation end. I have learned that endings are also a kind of care. If you read the first post, you saw me working very hard to be both kind and firm and bending myself in the middle. I do not want to bend that way anymore. I still want to be kind. I want to be clear first. Clear lets kindness breathe. Clear lets a clinic feel like a clinic rather than a stage. Clear lets a sister be a sister rather than a project manager for someone else's stubbornness. This is not a victory lap. It is a note from a quieter place. My clinic is stable. My staff is steady. My patients are better served when I am not fighting shadows in the lobby. My mother and I are finding new ways to talk that do not involve plastic bottles and QR codes. My father says sturdy like it is a blessing. My sister is choosing her own temporary paths, and I am choosing not to follow her into each new hallway. I go home, pet my cat, water the fern, and finish my charts. Boring in the best way still feels right. Thank you to everyone who told me to draw the line and then hold it. I thought holding it would feel like hardness. It feels like room to breathe.